Chapter 14, June 23rd, Summer House, the day before departure, Florence. I can't believe a little over 2 weeks has gone by. Time flies so fast. Clayton was one big surprise this summer. Literally every night, after all the festivities and fuss were over, we would sneak down to the kitchen or our private living room and just talk. I've never shared so much with somebody in such a short period of time. How could you grow up with somebody all your life, your parents be best friends, see them every summer for years, but not really know them at all? These questions have been plaguing my mind, though we've never talked about what would happen after this, whether we will stay friends, or if there is even the possibility of something more between us. Talking to Clayton this summer has really freed some stuff in me that I haven't been able to get rid of. He's been a constant source of encouragement. Even during the day, when we are trying to keep up the pretense of still hating each other in the midst of all the activities, I would catch him giving me a smile. Or we'd be stealing glances at each other across the table. I really don't know why we are still keeping up the charade. After all, we're both 30 years old and are not children anymore. We're both single and should be free to date each other if we want to. Our parents would be thrilled. I think that's part of the problem. If we were openly dating each other, our parents and the whole community would have something to say about our relationship, and it would just become another thing we would have to put on a good show for the world about. Everybody was sitting down to dinner. There were long tables set with white linens, crystal champagne glasses filled to the brim with champagne. The mood was so pretentious with meaningless gossip. I can't wait until tomorrow when I can get back to my actual life with my real friends that love me for who I am. Friends that don't care how much money I have or whether I'm wearing the latest styles or seeing the most high-profile and eligible bachelor. I'm sick of this. I can't wait to get out of here. I heard my mother talking to Marguerite Pryor. I didn't want to listen to their conversation, but because they were sitting right beside me, I couldn't help but overhear. "Can you believe it?" my mother was saying. "Macy Douglas is a school teacher, but not a proper school teacher at an academy or something prestigious that her mother can be proud of. She works at some school with hoodlums, children that any decent person would see as garbage. I don't know why children like that even bother with school. We all know they'll end up in prison or dead, and the girls will probably end up pregnant before they're 14. Really, I don't know why we have to spend our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to support them." To make things worse, Macy left her husband, who was an investment banker, who made 6 figures a year and has taken up with the teacher at the school. I heard they're living together and she's not even divorced yet. "Her mother must be devastated," Marguerite said. "Be thankful," Marguerite mother said, "that we raised decent children who would never stoop so low as to work at such a menial job as the glorified babysitter to a bunch of good-for-nothing street bums who are not going anywhere anyway." I heard my mother over the years say a lot of mean things about people, but I've never heard her speak about someone like that. Usually I don't say anything, but sitting in that seat among all those phony and pretentious know-it-all snobs, I had enough of all the years of pretending, of trying to be something that I wasn't, enough of hiding who I really was. And before I could stop myself, I said to my mother, while trying to keep an even tone, "How dare you talk about someone like that?" She turned around abruptly. "What do you mean, darling?" "I mean the way you were talking about Macy just now and her job working with underprivileged youth. How dare you look down on her? At least she decided to actually do something with her life instead of just sitting down and trying to please people that don't care about her. She's working hard, making a difference in the lives of people who are less fortunate than her. I find it very honorable, and I think that it's unspeakably rude the way you talked about her and her situation. As you know, Mother, I've known Macy for years. She's the sweetest person anyone could ever meet. She's giving and loving and would offer the shirt on her back to anyone who asked. And as for that husband, Roger, did you know that he beat her every single day of their marriage? And the only reason they are not divorced is because he refuses to sign the papers?" My mother stood there stunned. I had never answered her back before or stood up for myself or anyone else. Oh, and another thing. As far as you raising decent children, I'm not an editor at Flavor Magazine, Mother. I'm a stripper at the Golden Potato. My mother's face went white, and so did Marguerite's. After an eternity of not speaking, she raised her hand and made contact with my face. I felt a hard stinging. You are a slut, she whispered in my ear, and a liar. Get the hell out of this house. I never want to see you again. And as for all the money you were about to inherit, no whore is going to lay a finger on my hard-earned money. Hard-earned money, Mother. You've never worked a day in your life. All you do is sit around with your jewelry and your high-priced clothing, passing judgments on everyone else except yourself. For years, I've tried to do everything to please you, wearing clothes that I don't like, playing games that I can't stand, hanging around people that make me sick and make my blood boil, all so that you would love me. Well, I'm through with that, Mother, with all of it. I don't need you for your money. Have a nice life. I turned on my heels and walked away from the life I knew into a life I was honestly scared to embrace. But I knew one thing for sure. I would be happy. Clayton, watching from the other side of the table, I saw Florence leave. I knew she had some angry words with her mother, and as I heard the door slam behind her, I knew something else too. I knew that I loved her. In fact, that I had never stopped loving her since I was 16 years old. And although I loved Sarah with all my heart, she was gone, and I had to move on with my life. These past 2 weeks talking to Florence had been more than I ever expected in my life. She opened me up in a way that I never thought. Since Sarah died, my heart has been cold. I've been living like a zombie and found this cloud of darkness to be my constant companion. These last few weeks with Florence have taught me that I can't just stand by and let the darkness envelop me, that I can indeed have a full life with a wife and children and whatever else life has to offer. I knew that if I didn't go after Florence, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I would slip back into the dark pit of hell that I'd been living for the last few years, and that to me, for the first time in my life, was unacceptable. For the first time, I knew that I deserved better than the darkness that up until now consumed me. I deserved a life of love and laughter, filled with possibilities and hope. Without realizing she had, Florence had shown me that a life with her would be that kind of life. But if I didn't go after her right now, I would lose that forever. As I headed to the door, my father stopped me. Son, I was just talking to your mother, and Florence is no longer going to be invited to this special gathering. He 7 He whispered in my ear, apparently she's a... My father looked baffled, and at a loss for words, I finished the sentence for him. An exotic dancer, I said, or in layman's terms, a stripper. My father looked horrified. You mean you knew and you didn't say anything to any of us? You let that 2-bit hussy come and traps around here like she was still one of us? I can't believe you, son. What the devil were you thinking? Suddenly, all my anger came rising to the surface. I was thinking that I didn't want to sell out the woman I have loved ever since I was 16. My father looked astonished. How could you love someone like that? What do you mean, someone like that? I said, growing angrier and angrier by the minute. Someone who takes off her clothes in front of strange men and gets paid for it, my father said snidely. Very easily. You see, Daddy, when I look at Florence, I don't see a stripper. I see a young woman who has tried for years to make everyone around her happy, so much so that after she got fired 4 years ago because the girl she was training got the promotion that she had every right to, she found a way to pick herself up and dust herself off. Florence being an exotic dancer doesn't take away from the person she is. A person who for the last 2 weeks has helped me through my private hell from the war by talking to me late at night about life and love, stuff that if you didn't have your head so far up your ass, I would share with you. But the problem with you, Daddy, is that you only see what you want to see. You only see me as your son, who is part of some almighty legacy of men who went to war. You walk around like a peacock strutting, like going to war was the best thing, and what's worse, to have me as a showpiece, so you can say to your army buddies that your son went to war and came back without a scratch. Don't get me wrong, it was an honor to fight for my country, but I have scars that can't be seen. Do you know, Daddy, that I get startled at every loud noise I hear and want to duck every time I hear the school bell because my fiancée Sarah and best friend Paul were shot at a school in Afghanistan? My father was speechless. He didn't know what to say. No, I guess you don't, Daddy. Do you know there are days when I can't even get out of bed? I'm in all bed. I'm so depressed. No, you don't, because you never bother to even call me or ask about how the war has affected me. All you care about is all those medals in your trophy case. Well, you know, Daddy, I'm a human being with thoughts and feelings and emotions. Before these past 2 weeks, I felt so dead and empty inside, like I was no use to anyone. Until my talks with Florence helped me see that I have value and I have something to contribute to the world. I love Florence deeply, Daddy, and no matter what you say, I am going to marry her eventually, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, if you excuse me, my future wife is about to leave without me. Without looking back, I turned and headed for the door, feeling freer than I ever felt in my life. It was as if the chains and shackles that had held me down were now broken, and I could finally talk about the destiny that is laid out for me. But first, I would have to catch up with Florence, the woman who changed my life forever. For the first time in a while, I felt something slowly spread across my face. It was little at first, but then became wider and wider. A smile, a great big smile.